Okay, I'm live on YouTube. Okay, and what was your statement?
My statement was life is not all unicorns and rainbows. It is not all Disneyland, fairy tales, superhero movies. That's not what real life is. Agree.
I disagree to a certain extent, and here's why. All of those things that you mentioned, all of those positive aspects, those things that make us look up to the sky, that make us smile inwardly at ourselves, that encourage us to put one foot in front of the other, even in the toughest of times, to accept those challenges and overcome them. Um, while everyone wants to say, well, that's not real life, and yet all of our lore is all of these. It doesn't matter if it's just our lore. You look at any spiritual literature, and it is the exact same thing. It is wonderful tales of people, looking up to the sky, putting one foot in front of the other, and becoming something more.
I get that.
All of them, but
But that's not real life.
I think it
That's
is.
why people reach for spiritual or religion, not spirituality. That's why people reach for religion because its offerings are that of something better than the shithole that they're living.
See, but I think the structure of that shithole is entirely of our own creation, and it's because it's just like the young man, the woman, that you have one woman who picks an aspect of a man based on who just one aspect of him. She picks her husband based on just looking at his damn feet. And in today's world, you have all of these girls lamenting their.
Who says that?
Okay, this is Scotty when she picks her husband in New York.
Because of his feet?
Because of his feet, she figures, well, he's got the prettiest feet. Surely this must be Balder. So she's going to marry him. So she picks a man based on just knowing one aspect of who he is, and it goes to shit. She picks a guy, and he wants to live by the ocean, and she wants to live in the mountains, and they can't stand it. Blah. Now, at a personal level, we have women all over the world saying, oh, well, I watched this movie, and I watched this, that, and the other, and I watched, Tuscan Sun, all that bullshit. And they picked a man based on one aspect of who he was. He either had, oh, he's got a lot of success, he's got money, he's got a huge tallywhacker.
Oh my God. No, he doesn't.
Don't
believe it.
Don't believe it. He's good looking. Something along those lines. And then they wonder why it goes to shit. And see, on the other hand, you've got another cautionary tale where this one man, he goes through, he slays the dragon, he becomes who he's supposed to be, he learns his trade, he has a huge treasure, but he's developed in a way that gives him what it takes to walk through this circle of flame every woman has about herself. And that circle of flame usually looks like, well, you wouldn't love me if you really knew me. This kind of, I'm a crazy bitch, you're going to have to deal with me. This circle of flame that all these women have around themselves because they haven't quite figured out this, well, I got to pick him based on more than one aspect of who he is. Does he speak to my heart? And see, the real man walks through that flame. The whole time that flame's there, the woman is laying covered in the ideas of masculinity, this Bernie, the shield of armor, protecting herself from the pain her father caused her by not paying enough attention to her or paying too much attention to her. She's laying there encased in masculinity, and it is the real man that walks through that fire that can cut that free and allow her to become who she's supposed to become, to express that beauty. And there you have Sigurd and Brunhild sitting on the mountaintop. And when these two equals meet, this is where they begin to incorporate the divine into their relationship. The trouble is, once again, it's just as much a cautionary tale as Scotty picking New York based on just his feet. They only have a part of the puzzle. They don't have the entirety of the Havamal. They don't have the entirety of understanding of the runes. And though they share a memory draught together, they share their first drink together as a couple.
Right.
There's supposed to be a period of remembrance there. That is the union of the opposing competing forces, the complementary competing forces, the yin and the yang, as it were. Right?
That's complementary competing forces.
Yes, complementary competing forces. That's what they are. There's a balance to be achieved in that. But if you don't have the entire understanding of it, you're still grabbing this. Well, it's still a bunch of muck. It's still this. I expect him to do that. And then, well, he's not doing that for me. And I think that he needs to do that for me because, well, that shows that he really cares. How the fuck does that really show? How's that show? And then, oh, well, that's just horrible. Life's going downhill because he won't do this for me. Oh, makes you think the man's not thinking the same thing. So the complementary competing forces begin to bulge and swell at uneven and unnatural angles. Now, no longer is it simply just a case of sharing a drink with each other and understanding the complementary competing aspects of who and what we are to each other. Now there's conditions put on it based upon some bullshit, some old thinking, the fucking baggage, the goddamn rose-tinted lenses we view the world from. They were conditioned by how we were trained, how we were raised. They were polished with our own biases. And then we put them on and view the world through those lenses. Well, we dare not take them off, because if you take them off and you begin to accept those kinds of things, fuck yeah, it's rainbows and unicorns.
Some of it is, but that
no, none of it.
You mean there's always a happy ending, and there's always a happy ending?
No, I mean
that.
What I mean is that none of that shit that people point out, this happened and that happened, not one bit of it changes the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, or what you really are. Every bit of it is something that might influence how you think about yourself and how you portray yourself to the world. None of it fucking matters. All that shit is just something that happens. The entirety of how it affects your life is how you present yourself to the world, is how you think about it. I've been a victim. I'm sick. I'm in pain.
I understand that. I understand that
all of that.
Your words are huge. Your words,
And just like we were talking about this morning, it is when you take a look at it, I've had a good fucking life.
And I have too. We both decided that. As children.
And it's just a subtle shift from living a life based on, fuck, man, wringing our fucking hands with a worried brow, sitting, I don't know, maybe I feel, I'm not sure. Fuck, man, take a good look around. So we have a good life. This is a good life. And when you start to look at it from that perspective, hell yeah, it starts to look like rainbow and unicorns. And furthermore, when you start stepping away from Jordan Peterson's famous line of life is one of unbearable suffering and quit waiting on something out there to fucking do it for you, it gets even better. That drives me fucking insane. Well, shit, yeah, it's going to be a world of fucking shit if you're sitting here going, oh, well, Jesus will accept me when he will bestow grace upon me. Nothing out there is going to fix what's in here, ever. Nothing, ever. It will always, always, always be a subtle change of thought right here. Now, what causes that subtle change of thought? It could be any myriad of things. It might be your belief in something out there going to take care of it. It might create that change. I understand that. That's a good point. I mean, that's a very valid point. Some people need to send that stuff out and get it back so they can determine they can send that out there and bounce it off somebody so they can determine what kind of presence they need to generate.
Perhaps.
And that means they're still waiting on something out there to tell them how to be. And I'm saying the entirety of my propositions of what I've written is that we no longer have to do that. These words, these ancient tales are showing up now to remind us we no longer have to value who we are based on some other outside denominator. We don't have to use something that's happened to us or for us to determine how good or what our worth is to this world.
To validate me.
That's exactly right, man.
But you know how difficult and what a challenge and an extreme, just a huge challenge to take on yourself fully and not have someone else to help you to bounce off of.
Who told you that?
I'm just saying that's a mentality that perhaps is mine. Perhaps I grew up with that, but that is a difficulty to take on your own responsibility for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Fully.
Yeah.
For your.
It's terrifying.
It is.
What might you become if you let that go? What will happen to me if I no longer hang on to these things that I have used to create that fire about myself? What happens to me if I take that gold and use it for something other than, you know, what happens to me if I don't fully slay that dragon? What happens if I don't ever take off the shirt my mother gave me as a young man? What happens if there's all kinds of things people can be see those kinds of things paralyze us in indecision. And in that paralysis of indecision, there's a real, true, looming threat of chaos. And
Exactly.
people dive off into drug addiction and all kinds of other things to avoid that. People dive off into radical ideologies to protect them from that chaos they can't figure out how to deal with. The secret to all of it is it's your mind, and you control the thoughts you think. Hell, you can control the course of your own dreams with a little practice. It's your mind. You control the thoughts. And once you begin to change that narrative in your mind from one that's not congruent to you becoming something greater, and that's another thing too. What the hell really does it look like to become something greater? That's the scary thought. There's no example walking around saying, I am something greater. Do as I do. There's nobody doing that. So all of a sudden, once again, now we're faced with chaos. I don't know what that'll be. I'm not sure what happens if I become that.
Yeah, who sets the standard? Who's the example? Who do you look to?
Who do I look to? Who do you look to?
Who do you look to?
That's the thing. You don't need to look to anything.
So you're not looking to Thor and
Those
Odin.
Those are powerful examples. They're wonderful lessons in all of that.
Okay. So
And
they
they're
don't set the
see,
bar.
They do set the bar.
Okay.
And that is an invitation to me to justify my seat at the table.
Not to guide your soul. They don't guide your soul through life.
Doing the right thing, having the integrity to do the right thing, to change your manner of thinking, to perceive things as they are and not as something that makes you who you are. There's a real level-headed clarity of thought and vision that comes with that allows you to walk up and sit at that table and be a part of something great. They're examples. They're wonderful, powerful. You can't begin to imagine this. It's a God. And one inhale of his breath is the lifetime of an entire universe. And the exhale of one breath is the creation of another one.
You're back to a fairy tale.
Oh.
In my mind. Now don't take this wrong.
Go ahead.
But I'm listening to you and it's back to unicorns and rainbows, of tales of this and this and this and this. This is real life. This is raw. This is real. This is us.
Right.
So,
which part are you going to focus on? Which part are you going to focus on?
Rainbows and unicorns, or
bullshit and won't?
Not life. It's not all bullshit. That's the wrong term, obviously.
Is it?
Well, it's just life. It's not.
There you go.
It's not.
See, that's just, and there you've made the subtle change in thought. You've stepped away from that idea of it's all bullshit, because most of the time, these things that we identify with, it's because it's a fear of lack. I might not have this. I might not be as important as someone else. Oh, how so? How will you not be that important? And there's a lot of people that I cannot, well, if I had a gun or a stick, I probably could, but people that I can't beat up. That doesn't make me any less of a man. It means I've got to continue to compete. It means I've got to continue to challenge myself to grow and maintain that viability, however you want to perceive masculinity. It's the same way with spirituality. But if you're focused on just one aspect of it, where's that going to lead? And that's what people are missing. Say, well, that's a fairy tale. I don't want to believe in that. Don't believe in it. Nobody says you have to. Nobody says you have to engage in the grand ideas of a final spiritual solution or how magnificent something out there might be. But there's a lesson there in harnessing the flows of energy around us And people laugh about that shit. But like I said, as soon as you say something about, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, everybody and their brother's like burning some fucking sage and shit, clean out the house. You know?
Not everybody, but yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not everybody, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Even good Christians are looking at that going, oh my gosh, well, that explains it. You know.
Right.
I've heard them do it.
I know.
So you can call it rainbows and fairy tales, but I look at that and I hear a defense mechanism to say, oh well, I don't really need to try then. I can be comfortable where I'm at. I can be comfortable languishing in this position in life because that's what I'm familiar with.
We've discussed this before. That's exactly it, and I've said it. For a lot of people, you know, it's easier just to stay in what you know as comfort, even if it's not comfortable. It's easier to stay in that zone that you know.
Oh yeah, there's
than to reach out for the unknown. The unknown is scary.
There's thousands, probably millions of women around the world that never put that piece of fire up, that never built protection around their heart, and they picked one aspect of a man and they live in abusive relationships right now. Their daughters suffer because of it. The men are there. I can't even justify that. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But there's millions of women that couldn't figure that out, couldn't change their thoughts long enough to realize I'm worth more than this fucking shit.
I know, exactly.
And step away from it. And that's the real thing, I think. And like I said, that's why I think these pagan beliefs are returning to the world to remind us we are worth something and we have a seat at the table if we will step forward, change our thought process, and begin again to be a part of the world around us. Because every day that sun shines and shine, if we want to but look up at it and smile, the sun's going to shine on our face. Vitamin D is going to course through our system. Our bodies are going to be stronger. We're going to be happier. I mean, we're creatures that revel in the sun.
Yeah.
Every bit as much as a tree does.
But we love the rain as well.
But hell yeah, we love
and
the rain.
Snow,
life-giving
and
water.
Utah.
Yeah, in Utah, absolutely in Utah. So that's
these are just ideas and just things that we talk about and go through and talk about some more and talk about some more and have talked about for 9 years almost.
9 years is an important cycle.
Is it?
Yeah, it's 9.
Okay. What about 7, 8, 13?
13 is special too.
What's 9?
9's a cycle. 9's a cycle of birth.
What's the 7-year itch?
You know, that's that was been a motherfucker for me in the past.
Yep. Yeah, that was a hurdle. How funny.
I don't know, but that, folks, that's, people wonder where I get my ideas and how I write these books. That right there is why I'm being constantly forced to take a look at it and make sure that these things I'm saying are legitimate and mean something and have weight. That's been one of the primary drivers to the things that I write. It's been these conversations I have with my wife. It's not, and it's why I look at some of these other things. I think there's nothing in some of these other ideas that float around as popular or powerful or dare I say manipulative that will yield the kind of results you'll get from having a conversation to an equal and opposing opposite. And that opposing opposite sometimes comes into play a lot. But that's but you look at some of these I mean, you look at social media at any given day and you see all these things drive you to emotional states of distraction and prevent you from fully accomplishing that little switch, that little change of mind that, yeah, I got a good life. Everybody else might be worried about it. Oh my gosh, what's he going to do? Well, who knows what he's going to do? But in the meantime, he's going to sit here and figure out he's okay. Then get up, put one foot in front of the other, and opportunities will appear exactly as they need to. They always have with us.
I know. And I don't think that other people's opinions are forefront in most of in women's minds. There might be a small majority of women who care about other people's opinions, but most of the time it's just, my home, my family, my right here people.
Yeah.
I don't care about what people think out there, but this little place right here needs to be solid, secure,
Well, this one
and home.
is. Everybody that walks in that door always says it.
Yeah.
But then you have the Kardashians out there doing their best to make sure that we see how successful they are
If you're not a billionaire,
by caring about what other people think. And that's I don't want Scarlett.
Well,
to
you
see
have
that
to
shit.
care somewhat about what other people think, or you can't.
Hell yeah,
You can't market yourself.
Well, there's that, but there's also the fact that they'll ruin the fucking world if we don't, because they're doing a pretty good job of it right now.
Yeah, I don't. We don't watch that. I don't watch that, so that's not my world. I don't care. Like I said, I'm concerned about what's in this head right here, what's in Scarlett's head, what's in this home, this energy, this space. I don't care about that man over there, that neighbor. I care about them, but I don't.
Yeah,
this is the sole important thing right here.
See, that's friggin'
What's
talking.
in here?
That's the whole. That's what everybody needs to be having. And I don't think people are enjoying that. I think that's the blessings of Frigga. I think that's what it's all got to be all about. And then you see women that get bent out of shape on a political idea, but we've got to do some things to strengthen this home, because our children spill forth from the home, and when they walk out into the world, they better be able to slay that dragon or encase themselves in that burning. You know what I mean?
Right.
To hold out for the right man. That's the prettiest. That's the most beautiful thought of true, I think, and indeed most of these pagan faiths, is the strength of that home, the ability to raise a child in a safe, secure environment. I fucking failed at it. Period. Couple times.
No, you didn't.
Well, maybe they've turned out okay.
Yeah.
I'm proud of them.
They've learned from your fairy tales and Disneyland, and then they've seen the real. That's the whole point of all this. I guess that's, they've got a taste of both.
Boy,
they
see
the good with the bad. I mean, I guess that's what this whole thing is about. That's life. It's not all Disneyland and fairy tales. It's also this other side.
Yeah, my point is that when people say that, they're using it as an excuse to never step out of that. They're using it as an excuse not to develop into something more. They're using it as an excuse not to realize what their real potential might be.
I agree. You're right.
It's that factory worker mentality that I saw with my dad. He complained about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw him do it. A 30-minute tirade about some bullshit at work that nobody gives a fuck about, but it was important to him, but it didn't ever help him move beyond the sophomore ideal of, getting a good piece of ass, I mean, good night. Look how he died.
Change the subject.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, folks, I appreciate y'all joining me on that today. And that's just the kind of discussions that we have. These are the kind of discussions that stimulate growth. These are the kind of the discussions that make us want to go outside and look up at the sun. Because I see Stephanie right now. She's going to go out there and do it.
Yeah, I am. This non-smoking thing is the killer, guys.
I'm enjoying the shit out of it. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.
Let us know your thoughts.
Yes.